looks like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are running into some serious financial troubles. Every single deal is falling apart. All those ridiculous figures that they're going on and on about are never going to reach their bank accounts. Lady Colin Campbell is saying that things are not going as planned, and Meghan, of course, is blaming everybody else for her mistakes. And now she's all pissed off because no matter what she does, it fails. Harry and Meghan's net worth may not be as impressive as once thought. So the fact is, Archewell is not even bringing in enough money to pay staff salaries, which is why so many people are walking away. Lemonade has gone completely quiet, and American Riviera Orchard has nothing at all to sell. Soon enough, the accountants are going to have to step in to administer what is left and pay the bills. Now, they can hire basically anybody, in fact, dozens of people, and that's what they did, but then they can fire them just as quickly, or more likely, the staff members leave. Realistically speaking, Archewell is simply a tool that allows them to pretend that they're humanitarians. It looks to me like neither Meghan nor Harry has ever really had to budget or manage money in their entire lives. Now, Meghan first had everything paid for by her father and then Trevor, and then she got the part in Suits and of course dumped him. The Suits' regular pay meant that Meghan always had enough money. And with Harry, she never really had to watch her spending, and he didn't know anything about money. He didn't know how to save, he didn't know how to spend. It really is a recipe for disaster. Just like so many people who win lotteries, right? They splurge, they overspend, and then the money runs out and they are flat broke. But I don't really believe they are hurting. They made a lot of money from Netflix and Spare and whatever else they've been up to. But how often can they keep on telling the same old stories about how awful Harry's family is? It's gotten old and dull, and it just makes them look like they are so resentful, they're spiteful, they're jealous and vindictive. I mean, with both the King and the Princess of Wales suffering from cancer right now, they really have to find a new way to make money. And the reality is, they have not gotten all that money from Netflix. They haven't even done anything for Netflix lately. And they got only a portion of their Spotify contract. And who knows what they made from the book deal. They didn't really do anything there either. So I don't know where they would get such an impressive bank account balance. It's funny to me, too, that Meghan believes that since she dated a chef, she's one as well, so she should have her own cooking show. But she is stupid enough to believe that marrying a dim-witted prince makes her a princess in her own right, so I'm not really surprised. All right, so let me clarify this. Netflix deal, it's a production deal. The $100 million is basically a line of credit. It's not a deposit into any of their bank accounts. Spotify was the same deal until, of course, it was canceled. So the line of credit is extended to produce content that makes the company money. If the profit's not there or if it's too low, the deal gets cut. And if content does not arrive as the term set, the deal also gets cut. So the $20 million book deal is apparently for 4 separate books, and they all have an expected submission date. An advance was given for the full amount. No, it wasn't. No publisher wants the hassle of taking back the money. Harry did not get that $20 million handed to him. He just wanted to make it seem like that. Industry news usually gets amounts out. Production deals. Think about Denzel Washington and his player pay deals. Signing into a film role, for example, agents get that information out because it proves that they're really good at making deals. Since March of 2020, though, nothing on Meghan's end has been multi-million-dollar deals for her and her alone. What about 40 by 40? Well, we haven't heard anything about that in a very long time. And the coffee company? Yeah, sounds like she dropped that one too. She did that single ad for it, but no deals came from it. I mean, even the cast of Suits wants nothing to do with her, as we saw when they all showed up to the Golden Globes, and Meghan Markle was not included. So WME, William Morris Endeavor's job is to get jobs for Meghan, to get her on the list for events, to get Meghan brand ambassador deals, get Meghan on the cover of magazines. And it's not the 2 covers that she got for snagging Harry, so obviously they haven't been making the deals that they promised they would. Let's think about Gwyneth Paltrow, though. She has been working with Goop for a long time, and she does get some criticism for it. It didn't launch, though, and go into the stratosphere immediately. Now, Meghan Markle's new site, American Riviera Orchard, it has nothing to sell. And once Archewell releases another year's financial, it's going to be clear that they are running very low on money. The Sussex Foundation is going to have to release financial information for nonprofit status. And what about that McMansion they're living in California? That is quite the money pit. They got to pay taxes, they have to pay insurance, they have to pay for the upkeep, the security. I mean, I think that Archwell Charity just uses that house as its brick and mortar site. So they're probably trying to write off everything they can. But let's discuss specific numbers. Now, I think that their biggest deal, Netflix, was nowhere near the $100 million figure that we heard. I suspect they were offered this little tasty morsel to complete the final installment of The Crown. Netflix made sure to make that deal very sweet so that Harry and Meghan wouldn't need to feel guilty about anything. But Netflix ended up being the big loser in that deal. I mean, honestly, Netflix just got a bunch of meaningless self-promotion, which could amount to around $30 million. And let's not forget, they still had to take out a mortgage on that Montecito McMansion. Now, maybe they got the full amount from Spotify, the $20 million, and perhaps they have gotten some money from the Bank of Dad. But Diana's inheritance invades them because the very practical Anne is standing in the way. So my guess is somewhere around $60 million. But think about how they love to spend. They waste their money on PR campaigns. I mean, $60 million may get you a seat at the table, but it's not big by American standards. And to an oligarch, it's nothing. They have got to work very hard to keep it up, but the thing is, they're allergic to hard work. All right, so before we shift gears a little bit and talk about the next story, I want to ask you, have you ever thought that Princess Meghan could hold the position of the British Prime Minister? Well, okay, the first thing that she would have to do is become a citizen of the UK, and she can't qualify for that. Now, assuming that she actually made that happen, she would need to live in the UK too. Oh, again, she doesn't qualify. If she did live in England, then she and Harry would have to give up any chance of being working royals because royalty and politics mix a bit like oil and water. So, okay, they don't want to be working royals, that's fine. Either Meghan Markle would have to choose to join a political party or she could be an independent. Now, if she chose a party, then she would have to join her local branch and somehow convince them to choose her as a future candidate. That would never happen. Meghan Markle would also have to live there. Now, assuming the impossible happened and Meghan Markle was adopted as a future candidate, then she would actually have to win the election. Now, I guess miracles can happen, but that certainly wouldn't be a miracle. And then Meghan would be a member of parliament. But again, folks, this is impossible. But let's just keep going with our little game. So let's assume that her party is in power. She would then have to convince the party leader to give her a job in the cabinet. Well, again, that's basically impossible because Meghan Markle doesn't have any relevant experience whatsoever. Honestly, Meghan Markle only has experience as a mattress actress and a yacht girl. But I guess, okay, so let's assume that more miracles somehow happen and Meghan Markle gets a ministerial job. Well, the next part gets very complicated because a leader can be in power for years. She would have to survive and she would have to show that she was worthy to be nominated when the incumbent falls out of favor or quits. And Meghan would have to appeal to the party members and other members of parliament that she's the one for the top job. Well, that would be another miracle. I mean, they would have to be a party of complete idiots, and Meghan Markle would have to shine like a diamond. So then there would be another general election, and nobody wants a party of complete idiots, so there's no way they could be elected as a majority party. All right, so let's say another miracle happens and they somehow have a working majority, and then Meghan is summoned to the palace by the king. So she complies, even though she doesn't really like to comply with anything, and she gets to the palace and is announced to the king. They shake hands, she curtsies, and she accepts his invitation to become prime minister. Yeah, I know, never gonna happen. But anyway, moving on. So how is the life of Harry and Meghan right now without the Diana inheritance money? Now, Harry has said that if it were not for his mother's inheritance, he would have been in financial trouble when Charles cut off his allowance. But does Meghan not have any money for them to live on? Did she just spend it all? And whatever happened to that big lump sum that Charles gave them when they walked away from their positions as working royals? Did Harry not have a source of income independent from the royal family? Or did he not make sure to secure one once he left? Because now it seems pretty obvious that he did not, even after it became clear that the royal family was not going to continue funding their lives after they left. Now, the inheritance from Diana and whatever other financial support he got from the family should have just been a pleasant little bonus or maybe something they could save for the future. It should not be their only source of income. And these days, Harry and Meghan, of course, have their own ways to make money, although how they make it is not all that nice. And what about the other side of the story? How much money do those two spend? Because what you bring in is only one side of the equation. Expenses, of course, are the other side. Does he somehow have enough expenses that his expected income simply can't cover it? And why is his lifestyle so expensive? I mean, can he not afford to cut back on some stuff? Perhaps Meghan Markle can go without those overpriced designer outfits for a little while, or perhaps Harry could just drop those stupid lawsuits so he can save on lawyers' fees. And why on earth do they need a home with 16 bathrooms? I mean, they could save a lot of money by living somewhere within their means. It doesn't look like they have many friends, so what are they using all that space for? They don't have anything to do with their families either. It's not like they have visitors coming. Maybe Harry thought that his allowance was his independent income because he wasn't going to receive money for appearances for the monarchy. And his lawsuits are basically like gambling. When he wins, it's for a lot less than he had to spend on his lawyers. And when he loses, well, he just digs his heels in and appeals. The only winners are his lawyers. Otherwise, the taxpayers in the UK and also Harry end up paying for the legal battles. And we heard so much about all the money that Meghan made on suits and how many millions she had when she married Harry. I do not believe a word of that. She didn't own a car, she didn't own her own home, nothing. She had already been written out of suits, and she was trying to get herself some other work, but with very little success. So basically, she was unemployed when they got married. Charles had to pay for the wedding dress, he paid for the bridesmaids, the flowers, the reception, all that, the whole wedding, and also her clothing for the first year. And for that first year, folks, I mean, we will never forget. She spent over £1 million on her clothing, just on her clothing. Now, William's family, to contrast, they spent that for all 5 of them, including all their living expenses. And Charles told Harry that if she wanted to spend money like that on her clothes, she should probably get a job because he couldn't continue to afford that. Well, of course, Harry and Meghan didn't like that at all. So I do believe they have to be running out of money or close to it, and so now Meghan Markle has to resort to trying to sell some jam and coffee and dog food. This is such a desperate attempt to make some money, and it's never going to work. It makes no sense from a marketing standpoint. So in conclusion, folks, remember, everything Harry and Meghan say or do is an outright lie. Now, if you can just remember that, everything else starts to make a lot more sense. I mean, it still doesn't make perfect sense because it's the two of them, but again, nothing they say or do really does. This is the main news today. What are your thoughts on these topics? Please leave a comment to let us know, and then leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel.